Hello and welcome to my Woolly PhD. My name's Liz Scarf and this is a weekly vlog about what I'm learning and making each week in my anthropology PhD, all about wool and knitting here in Iceland. So I am in the field, and literally and figuratively. If you're new to the channel, welcome, but also if you want an overview of the research project, you can check out the introductory video. But this week, in terms of learning, I am going to be just talking very briefly more about something I'm learning by doing and being rather than reading, different kinds of learning. And the video this week is a bit late because I had a big weekend learning by doing and being, and just kind of catching up to myself and my other kind of things I do. So on the weekend, we went to what is called retir, which I think translates more or less to the gathering, but I think I misuse it. It can refer to, I think, a structure, a pen, and then also an activity. But basically, there's a traditional land use practice in Iceland of having sheep in the free ranging, kind of in the highlands for a few months over summer. And when you read about it, you don't really get the details and nuances about it, and I still don't really understand much of it. But a few things that were interesting to me was that you can't just go not any farmer can just go put their sheep anywhere in the highlands, right? Like some farmers can, some farmers can't. You use it or lose it as a privilege to have your sheep in the highlands, and you have a particular area which is the area where your sheep and some other farmers' sheep, they will go. And those areas are usually prescribed by natural boundaries such as rivers, maybe ravines or other things, or maybe glaciers, I'm not sure. Big hills that the sheep don't tend to cross. Sometimes the sheep cross rivers, but tend mostly not to. So anyway, once it's time to bring the sheep in, lots of people gather and go roaming around the highlands on foot, on little four-wheel ATVs, all-terrain vehicles, little quad bikes we call them in Australia, and also cars, but I have to say a bit more about the cars later. And they just go find the sheep and kind of herd them eventually into a holding pen for sorting, but usually down more onto these lowland areas, because they do this for a few days, and then even more people come. And then they will walk about 28 kilometres along this kind of lower land area. It's not, although still quite hilly, sort of forming a line of people across the mountainside, walking and herding sheep as they encounter them. And I'm not sure if this is how every sort of group does this. This was how the group that I got to go along with does it. And there's also people on the Icelandic horses herding, and again, still on the ATVs, and some drivers sort of up in the mountains looking for any stray sheep that haven't been sort of herded down in the previous days. So it's quite an enterprise, and I think they start on a Wednesday, finish on a Sunday. They did this year, and there's a couple of highlights. So yeah, sorry, I'll explain the rest of what happened. So when they get down to the big holding pen, that all kind of happens on I think the Saturday afternoon. That everyone, the sheep and the people, have a rest overnight, and then on Sunday morning the sheep get moved into these pens where they get sorted, because certainly the one we were at, there's about 4 different farms who share the same highlands area. So we're sorting the sheep out and putting them into the pens for each different sort of farm, and that was very enlivening. I got to get in there and learn how to grab sheep and move sheep who didn't want to be moved into pens, and let me say, it's a really great workout. I think I've built so much strength in my fingers, it's still sore, but also all through my arms, across my back, bum, back of the leg. So, great workout for the back of the body particularly. One thing I noticed as I was doing it though is the lambs seemed they were much harder, and I thought because they're smaller they'll be easier. But the older ewes seemed much calmer, and I asked a farmer about it. I was like, they seem calmer, is that what's going on? And they said, yeah, because they know what to do, they've done it before. They're basically just they're sort of just kind of saying, yeah, point me to which gate you want me to go through. So that was really interesting, just watching the difference between the ewes and the lambs, and what they've learnt by doing this 1 or 2 times. And the So that was really, really interesting to watch, actually. And I think, if I see those lambs again next year, and I asked somebody about it, so how long does it take them to kind of learn that? And they said, look, even after the first year, the second year, they'll just be so much better at it and so much less sort of stressed about what's going on. So it's super interesting that even a year apart, they will still remember, oh, yeah, okay, I can learn from this. The other thing that was kind of interesting to me was I didn't know that there is a massive desert in Iceland, and it's the biggest desert in Europe. So the Icelandic desert is like 44,000 square kilometres, and it's mostly black volcanic sand that's been kind of ground down by ancient glaciers, is what I understand about it. I mean, it's sort of funny to me that I didn't know, because you're going to do your PhD in Iceland, you think that you would read everything you can about it. And I think, I did read some things, but I also think there's a lot of value in really not knowing, or not thinking you know much about a place that you're going to go research. It's good to know something, but not to think you know much at all, because the practice of being here and being with people, I think requires a sense of not assuming that you know much about what's going on. So anyway, this is my excuse for not knowing about the Icelandic desert. So I was really surprised. I thought the highlands was going to just be like green, green, green. And it was very surreal. I remember sort of saying to somebody, it's like the moon. And somebody said, yeah, the astronauts trained here for the moon landing, so the Apollo missions, Neil Armstrong, they trained there because around rock sampling, and because it looks so moon-like. There's not much colour in some areas. Some places there's water coming up out of the ground, and so there's little ecosystems, little green mossy things, and maybe some mushrooms appearing here and there, but otherwise it's lots of sort of black grey sand, and some areas that are just lots of rocks, which brings me back to the cars, right? I've seen quite a few cars around here that are like really jacked up trucks kind of thing, like like the monster truck type thing. Well, not quite monster truck, but getting there, but massive wheels. And seeing them drive around farms and stuff, I'm like, I don't understand this vehicle doesn't make sense in this context. And so then seeing them in the highlands and what the kind of terrains we were driving across, I was like, oh, now they make sense. I wouldn't want to be here in anything else. So that was really fun. The other thing I think I would mention that got me thinking about the role of dogs in sheep herding, because in Australian sheep farmers use dogs a lot for herding sheep and for sheep management, I guess. And they don't use dogs. Well, I don't know, actually, I can't say for the whole of Iceland, but in this group, they weren't using dogs. And I've sort of asked about the dogs, and somebody said, oh, we're not good at training dogs here. We don't really use them for farm work like that. But some people have sort of ventured into some training of dogs. But basically the message in our gathering weekend was like the dogs stay in the car because they're not obedient enough, or they might jump in the river and get cold and die, and we can't, so the whole range of reasons the dogs are not actually involved in the herding. And I was thinking about what would it be like if they were, and just thinking the way that would impact on the sociality, you would have a lot less people. So the social nature of the gathering, sort of, say 5 days, would change dramatically. And it made me sort of think about the way in which technologies change sociality, right? Because in this region, way back whenever, to get the sheep home, they used to have to put them in boats and row them across a river. I can't imagine this. Anyway, so they row them across the river, and then they come back with a rowboat, get the next like that, because there's hundreds of sheep, so there's a lot of trips. And at some point, there was a bridge built that's got this kind of wagon thing that a tractor on the other side of the bridge would sort of pull, and you put the sheep in it, and another tractor or truck on the other side pulls it, and then they go backwards and forwards, moving the sheep across the river so they don't have to row them, right? But it made me think, well, when that innovation came in, how did that piece of technology basically, how did that change the sociality, right? If you're not rowing the sheep together across anymore, there's a whole bunch of social interactions and opportunities for collaboration and conflict and relationship building and just enjoying the fun of the activity too, right? And the way you're relating with the sheep, all that changes when you bring in a new technology. And it made me think that the dogs are like that too, right? They're like let's say a farming technology in a sense that would change the sociality of the work that they're doing. So I don't know, that got me thinking a lot about the role of dogs in dogs as farmers and dogs as farm assistants, and the different ways different cultures engage dogs, and maybe other animals too, right? Because we certainly also have, certainly in Australia, like alpacas and llamas, and some places donkeys, doing protection work for herds. So I don't know, I don't really have anywhere to go with that. It just got me thinking a lot about the role of dogs and other animals in farming practices. Yes. So anyway, the retire was amazing. I was very grateful to get to sort of be part of that and learn and observe. And I guess one other thing I would say about them generally is the one we were at was quite remote, and so there was no tourists coming to visit. The only foreigners there like me were kind of invited and known by farmers there. Maybe there was, I don't know, 6 of us all up who weren't sort of Icelanders, 6 or 7, not sure. But I also hear people talking about another one that's not far from here that's very accessible and has busloads of people come, and it starts to create a problem for the farmers. They can't get to the sheep, or the sheep are getting too stressed. A whole range of different things and ways in which basically a farming activity is getting commodified. And that's got pros and cons, of course. But the way in which it kind of impacts on animal well-being and farmers being able to do their job, that starts to be, I don't know, something really worth thinking about a lot too, I think. Anyway, so I was very grateful to be at one where I could really get involved and participate and get a sore body from. It's great. Anyway, I forgot to introduce you to my friends in the background. Should have done that earlier. Sorry. These are the little porcine cherubs that I think for the past 3, maybe almost 4 weeks, most days I'm getting to feed these ladies twice a day, and they are a delight and terrifying at times when they're super hungry. Anyway, over on the left there we've got Isabella, and then Arabella, Mirabella up the back, Cantonella, Felabella, Petronella. No, I'm kidding. I haven't actually literally named them all, and some of them don't want their real names to be used. Anyway, these are pseudonyms. But one thing the naming, because there was a moment when I started thinking, oh, I gotta give them names. That one's Isabella, right? And it made me think about this transition in my way of relating to them from a group of pigs to individuals. And that I think the naming thing happened after I stopped and spent some time with them that was not about feeding. So the feeding thing, they're very enthusiastic for food. So I'm basically getting in there, getting food out as quick as I can, because they're very boisterous about it. It really is a bit of an adrenaline sport. So there's not a lot of time to kind of really relate. And so sometimes I'll kind of wait till their blood sugar's a bit more managed, and then just sit in there and hang out and have interactions with them that, and I noticed, I have this kind of little urge in me to kind of name them, which I just took as like metaphor or symbolic of like starting to see them as individuals rather than a species group, and that therefore being able to see something you don't normally regard as a person, that you regard as a species or a group or something, requires time and attention, because that's what led to it. I sat and spent time and gave them attention, or gave attention to the experience. So it's really interesting thinking about, transitioning the way I'm relating to something from an object to a person required time and attention. So that was something, I'm going to think on more about that. But anyway, they're pretty chilled out now, just munching away on, they're really cute when they're not chasing you, squealing for bread or something. We get really great old bread from the bakery, and also that's just got to get thrown out, and vegetables from a supermarket that again is just kind of getting it thrown out. And then they've got some like yummy organic pig pellet stuff which they love. Anyway, we're going to be eating them in a few weeks, which is very exciting. They're looking really good. Yeah, that's the pigs. What have I been making? This is the second part of the video. So I did start a second project. I probably mentioned that. This is the sock I'm making. Thought it was a great idea to kind of video outside today because it's not super windy. It's a bit cold, not super cold, but it does make the show and tell a little more logistically tricky. Bear with me. If you see this. Anyway, It's a bit lumpy at the moment, of course, because it's not finished, but it's a sock I'm making, and this is, so top down, there's the heel. It's for my father-in-law for Christmas, and it's a really thick, is it Aran to worsted? No, it's more than that. Maybe it's a chunky. Anyway, this is it's called the Vogaband, which is the troll sock weight, or the name, from the Uppspunni mini mill. And it's very lovely. I'm putting a little white stripe there, and just before the toe box I'll do another little white stripe. So, you know, elegant for an older gentleman. And let this all be a lesson to swatch, or start with your sleeves, as I keep getting told here. Start with the sleeve, treat the sleeve as a swatch, a gauge swatch. Anyway, so this is my second start to the Benjamina Lopapesa by Faker Knitting. You'll find them on Facebook. Anyway, it's a lovely little, I've started at the bottom, little colour work thing. Anyway, I got to about here on the first run and just went, this is going to be really fitted. I don't think I want a really, really fitted sweater, and I'm going to stress about it the whole time. So I had to pull it out, and I have to say, I mean, I don't really love making ribbing, but making ribbing with really dark wool as well. So I was a little bit sad about it. I had 2-second tantrum and got on with it. Yeah, so that's going well. I think I feel a little bit behind on my get a sweater a month done. I'm not sure about this one. It's a bit finer wool than the last one. But this is going to be like my good Lopapesa for going out in public, where my other one is like my farm Lopapesa. Yeah, so that's what I'm making. Again, that's the Huldeband yarn from the Uppspunni mini mill again. Yeah, and that's lovely. It's really lovely and soft and still smells really sheepy. So I'm enjoying knitting with that. And I think that's it for this week. Yeah, oh, there's not going to be a video next week because I am going on holidays for about 4 days and taking time off from PhDing and farming and just working in general. So there will be no video next week. That's intentional. It's not me just like dropping the ball. And so I'll be back in, well, a week and a half, because this one's a bit late. Okay, thanks for watching, and yes, please feel free, any comments or questions or reflections on pigs, or, you know, whatever you like. Love to read it. Bye.